All right. Pretty quick stuff. Sorry, I'm a little late. Big crowd trying to get the island to make Havdalah. Okay, where do we leave off? The bottom, right?
I think by the 2 dots, Yaakov.
Right, 2 dots by all the tekus.
Bein habinayim pashad umachatz.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
Boira papa, the mnemonic right before boira papa.
Yeah, right. Thank you. Right, so Bein Binayim, Pachad, Mochatz, Pazar, Choshav, Chofnis, right. So those are all simonim for all the tekus. The Gemara is about to go on a teku binge. I don't know if that's the right way to call it, but that's what it is. A lot of tekus. So Boira Papa. So Bein Binayim Shel Maloi Chafnav Mayu. What is the din in between? So the Gemara on Friday, yesterday's daf was talking about in between the fingers of the Korban Mincha, right, of the Silas. What about in between the hands, in between the fingers when he takes, the hands of the ketores for on Yom Kippur, right? Excuse me. Yeah. So the Gemara says, "My could be by what's the question?" Ikamar malay malay or malay malay mehasam. If you learn out malay malay from over there from Kemitza hainu hachs, and it's the same thing. So what's the question? Which then would make it that we said we don't know. No. So Rapapa hachi baile. This is what Rapapa's question was. Malay chafna ve'evi be'inon. Does it have to be full of his hands, meaning whatever's in his hands you have to bring and then you have that because meaning, and then we're not saying the Gezerah Shava, and then you have whatever's in his hands, including what's in between the fingers. Or does it have to be specifically taken? Meaning, if it's just what's in his hands, so of course, so it becomes part of the ketores, right? But if it's you have to actually lokach vehevi, that you don't have.
What's in his hands is not lokach automatically?
What?
What's in his hands is not lokach automatically?
Seems like he didn't take it. Right? Hold on, okay. Isn't that? All right, let's get down to Gemara. Isn't that he didn't actually take it with his hands? He has to, right? Yeah. How does it go?
I think we're saying the stuff that's in between his fingers, he didn't necessarily take.
Right, it wasn't his kavanah to take it.
But it is his kavanah. He's sticking his hands, and whatever he's gonna take, whatever's in his hands, that's what he took.
The Rashi says it's Shemei Elav Nichnas Lebeina B'nayim V'hu Lo Nischav. It went in there by itself. That was not his kavanah. What you're saying, it is his kavanah. No, I'm saying you're saying
that's when it comes sticky fingers. No, that's what Shmuel David's saying. You can't.
I mean, if I stick my hands in something and I'm grabbing a handful of it, whatever gets in between my fingers, I intended for everything. I didn't intend for everything but what gets inside my fingers. Well, but I hear.
Maybe you expect when you're taking the handful that there's going to be leftovers in between your fingers that you're not gonna put on. No, I guess that's the only way. Okay, either way, teku. So it's a teku. So either way you cut the cake, it's gonna be. We're on. You have it memzayin with base on the bottom. Yeah, fine. Okay, Amar Rav Papa. So then Rav Papa says, "Pshitali malay kumtzai k'tekamti inshi." When it says you take a kaimetz full, right? That's the way normal people could come to you, the way people do it. I buy Rav Papa. But Rav Papa had a shaila. What happens if you just did the kmitza Right, so kamitza we said goes with the 3 fingers and you push it down like that. What happens if you just do it with the tips of the fingers? Right, milamata lamala mahu. What about if you do it from bottom to top? Right, meaning normally you push your hand down into the flour and then fold the fingers like this. Here you pushed your hand backwards in and then did the kamitza that way. Is that enough? Minat stadin ma. What happens if you did it sideways? Right. So what's the din? Teku. Right. So that's also teku.
We up to? I'm sorry, I came in late.
Bottom of Mem Zayin Amud Beis but we started from the 2 dots. We just finished the second teku. We're about 5 lines up from the bottom.
Thank you, sorry.
No problem. Yeah. Fine. So I'm gonna pop up shchita limaloi chavna k'de chafni inchi. It's the same thing with chafina. Chafina is done with the way any normal person would grab a thing of ketores. So papa chafan barasha it's ba'isamaw. Same shiloh. What happens if he does the chafina? Again, chafina is the kohen gadol doing the ketores. Right. So what's the din with that? Milamata lamala ma'u. He does it from top to bottom. Ma'u minatzad ma'u. Or if he just takes it sideways, what's the din?
How is that possible?
What do you mean?
Malay Chafnov is filling his palms. How do you fill your palms upside down?
What do you mean? You put it in. You put your hands down into the ketores and then close it.
As opposed to what?
As opposed to putting your hands down that way and then taking it up.
Well,
you could put your hands face. Let's say you have a thing of flour, so you can put your hands face down, palm down in and grab it, or you could put it in down with the backs of your hands down and then grab it.
Ultimately, you're coming out with the same.
Yeah, there's no difference.
Correct.
No
You're coming out with the
end
same.
result.
It's just a matter of the procedure.
Yeah.
No, if you come out with your fingers under your palm, you're going to lose half the ketores. You're not going to have Malay Chafnov.
Why not?
Because it doesn't have oil in it like the menachos do. There's nothing. It's like sand. You can't pull sand up upside down. It's all going to fall out.
I mean, this is the way it's supposed to be done.
Yes, and you put your hands goes under the sand.
That's the way you should do it.
No, you go like this normally. He puts his hands backwards, but it still goes under the surface of the sand, and then he closes his hands.
Whoa, I got it wrong. How are you supposed to do it? Palms
This way,
down?
palms go first.
How do you fill Malay Chafnov? Palms down.
What do you mean? You go like this.
Then you close your hands. No.
Yeah, and you pull them up with your palms up. That's Malay Chafnov.
No, or sideways.
How do you end up with Malay Chafnov like this?
What do you mean?
And when you pull it back out, when you pull your hands back out, they're always facing up.
Somebody's gonna come out.
Gershon, you could hold the cigarette 2 ways. The way you're holding it now, you could bogart it, and you still have this whole cigarette in your hand, don't you?
That's true, but my cigarette isn't made out of sand. How do you pull sand up upside down? It's impossible. If you put a cup in upside down and pull it up again, it won't have any sand in it.
Gershon, take a chill pull. He doesn't pull it up upside down. He puts them in upside down, and then he picks them up.
So ultimately, the same action is happening. You're
That's
filling
what
your
the
palms and
tziyah
pulling them up.
That's what they were telling you, yeah.
You're gonna end up with your palms up both ways.
So it should be a difference of how they go in.
Yes.
Where does
I
it
mean,
say
come
how
on,
they should
we're in
go
a
in?
religion where everything makes a difference. So
No.
does it make a difference if you put your hands the wrong way?
Where does it say you should put them in a certain way?
What? Because everything has
Because
a
it
reason
says
why we do
Malay
things.
Chafnas is ketechafni inchi. It's ketechafni inchi. Whatever chafni inchi means, right? Rashi says, "Chuda shall pas hayad lamata." Your palms going down, then you put it and you go in down.
Yeah, because you got to
Fill it
borrow
up.
out. Yeah.
It's the way I do chafnav every single week.
For Shalashudas, he does it different, but he doesn't tell everybody. He doesn't want everybody to know that.
Anyways, okay. Fine. So that's what he's saying. So again, if you brought it up sideways, so you do a chafina with this one and this one, the carbon meaning you did it separate. You didn't keep the hands together. You did it separately with each hand, and then you moved them together. What's it in? It's a teiku. It's a teiku. Fine. Boy, Rapapa. Boy, Rapapa. Wait, it's a jacket from somebody in your car that has to come in. Please. Our car? Yes. Yosef, pick it up. I'm sorry. Boy, Rapapa. Yeah, I'm sorry. Boy, Rapapa. Let's say, so what do you do with the kmitza? So you're supposed to put it now. He takes the kmitza. Now again, we're back now to flour. If you take the kaimitz and you put it, instead of putting it into the pot, you stick it to the wall, right? Do you need it to be inside the kli? It's inside the kli. And you need it to be placed into the kli in a normal way. And you don't have that, so take it. It's a take it. So normally you take the flour and you put it into a pot. But let's say you turn the pot over and and we're talking about a type of pot that it has to have a clay kibble on the bottom. Meaning it's not like it's flat, like our pots, the bottom's flat. You turn it over, you put something on it, it's not in anything.
Like a becher with a stem.
Can't hear, what are you saying?
Like a becher with a stem.
Oh, very good, Taka, right, that's a good muscle. Yeah, becher with a stem. Right, so the bottom, you could turn over the becher and put it in the stem too. Oh, that's the jacket, okay, perfect, thank you.
Yeah, Yaakov, Zev's right. And also they make becher special that has a bottom that you can make Kiddush Shabbos morning in schnapps.
Yeah, the small shear?
Yeah.
Interesting.
That's not good for parrots, but there is such a musik to do such
for the
a
makilim. For the makilim. Yeah. Okay, so that's what it's talking about. You put it into the bottom. Yeah. Fine. So hanocha b'soicha b'inan va'ika. Does it need to be in a kli and you have it? I do hanocha kitikuna b'inan v'leka. So it's teiku. I just have a. How come you see in the shas that the teikus are one after the other? When we have teikus, we have lots of teikus. It's very rare that you just see one random teiku. That seems like. Could we say that it means that they just didn't know what was going on with this? And maybe they just piled up their questions one after the other?
So they knew everything else that was going on in the Beis Hamikdash, but they didn't know about this, about the ketores.
I'm saying, it seems like, how do you have five
I'm agreeing, but they knew everything else, but they had a lapse, they didn't know?
Yeah, that's what it seems, right? Masorah? It must be. I don't know. Or do we just say that when they wrote over shots?
I think based on what you said, I was thinking, I don't know if I'm right, obviously, but because it was such a surprise to me anyway that there's no shear. It depends on which coin does it. We have 3 ounces, 3.5 ounces, 3.8 kazais. We have kazais. We have a shield for everything. This goes according to the coin's hand. So once we said that, it was a free for all. Then they just asked 9,000 things because it's like a weird shear to begin with. So let's ask everything.
So you're saying that it's really not. It's just they piled them all up together.
Yeah.
No pun intended in this sense. Okay, but okay, maybe, but they all seem to be on the same subject. I mean, give or take.
Because it was such a, to me, it was strange that a shear based on the size of the coin.
Yeah, I hear you. Okay, whatever. It's interesting things. The Bayra Papa, Malay Chafnam Shamru. When we said that you have to put full, the handfuls, for the ketores, mechukos or gedushos. Do you make it smooth, or is it gedushos? How do you say gedushos? Gedushos is if it's
heaping.
piled up, meaning it's not heaping teaspoon, right? You have a heaping teaspoon and a regular teaspoon. So this is not a teaspoon. This is this is a handful, but the same thing. So Amarle, Rabbi Avla Ravashi, Tashema, Malay Chafnav Sha'amru, Lay Mechukas V'lay Gedushais. It's not smoothed out and it's not piled on. Ella Tfufais. It's rounded. He's talking about a teku. He asks two questions and he gives him an option, gives him an answer that wasn't part of either one of the equations, right?
And who's rounding this?
The way we put up our mezuzahs, no?
Right, somewhere in the middle. Right.
And who's
Very
rounding
good.
this? Who's
I
doing
have
the
no
rounding?
idea. Huh?
Somebody else is helping him?
Right? You would think that that's what it has to be, right?
What is
How you rounding it?
I would say rounded means the way it comes out. You don't flatten it out and you don't
So then
put more
why is
on
that-
top.
So why is that not heaping?
Doesn't come out heaping. You can always add more.
How do you heap? If you have two handfuls, how do you heap it on there?
You get someone else to do it.
Oh, so that's what it's. I don't know if that doesn't sound like that would be okay. It has to be taken out by the Kohen Gadol. That's what it seems.
He brings here from the Tosfos Rush that this is the way that people most commonly fill their cupped hands, and therefore is what the term Malo Chafna means.
Okay, I don't understand. What does that mean? What does that mean? That people normally round off what's in their hand. You take
No,
whatever.
you're not rounding. You're not. It's
Don't
not.
round it
That's the
off.
normal way people do is round.
Okay, I don't know. Okay, I still don't understand that.
Let me ask you, Tzviaka, when you take a sugar, a spoonful for your sugar, you take a heaping teaspoon and you don't take flat.
I know, but I don't understand how you control that. You can knock it off, I guess,
No
right?
digging as deep to pull out the heap.
Is that what you're saying? You don't dig in as deep. Interesting.
I would say that.
Okay, maybe that's Takab Shah.
I don't know.
Maybe I hear that. Okay, let's see. Weiter. Tran Hasam. Nishbach Hadam ala ritzba v'asfu. The blood spills on the floor, and then they gather it off the floor. So that's passul, right? That's a passul thing, right? What happens is after the shchita, you shech the animal, and the blood spritches out. And what are you supposed to do? You're supposed to, one of the most important avodas of the whole thing is the spilling blood. So you catch the blood in the pot, and then you go and you go put on the mizbeach. So what happens if the blood spilled on the floor? So if you take the blood off the floor and then put on the mizbeach, that is passul. But if it went into the kli, you caught the blood and then it spilled, then you clean it up and then it's kosher. Yeah, we know immediately.
Okay.
How do we know this? The Tanur Rabbanon. And you take from the blood of the par. Midam hanefesh, you take it from the blood of the nefesh, meaning from when it came out, when it died. But like midam ha'or, and not from the blood of the skin, and not from the blood that comes out, the leftover blood after the initial blood from the shchita. Midam apar, dam mehapar yikablanu. You got to take it from the par, right? That's to go straight from the par. The isag daitach midam apar midam bafilu miktas dam. Because if you think that it means midam apar, which is the blood and even just a part of the blood, and he doesn't have to get all the blood. V'amar Rav Yehuda. I'm a kabbalah tzara she kabbalah is called dama shalpar. The one who's doing the kabbalah of the blood after the shchita has to take all the blood. Shanema v'eskol adam v'eskol dam hapar yishpech l'yisayim mizbeach. All the blood of the par he spills onto the base of mizbeach. Elashma mino mami dam hapar. What does dam hapar mean? Dam me'apar yikablenu. That you have to take it straight from the par because savar goyrin masifim v'darshin. This is one of the most fascinating drushes you'll ever have in Shas. At least Lanias Taiti. It's one of the most fascinating. So what does this have to do, right? With taking, what does this have to do with anything? So we say this. So the way Rashi says it, Goyrin, you remove sifin and you add on to a word, vidarshin and you darshan. So what you do is you take. Rashi says you take one letter from one word and you add it on to the other word, and then you're able to darshan. Right? So basically, what we do here is you take the mem from midam and put it to the word hapar, and now the way instead of reading Mashiach dam meipar, it becomes dam mehapar. Right?
When
And
it says
therefore,
so when it says in the Torah, loy signoi, you just take away the lam and the aleph, you put it somewhere else.
some people
Well,
do
some
that.
people do that.
Some people not gonna.
What's the structure?
Yeah, but you have to put it on the next word. You can't just put it wherever you want.
Yeah, so I have no idea.
But is this drasha used anywhere else?
There is Taisus goes through a couple of places that there's other times that they use this drasha, but the Gemara asks on it. What do you because the Gemara says sakina charifa, you're taking a sharp knife and chopping up the Torah. Taisus garden masif and es. It's a Gemara in Bava Basra. Right? But anyways, but that's the way the drasha is. Yeah, that's what he's saying. Yeah, so that's how you know that the blood on the top, that from the animal, you have to catch all the blood from the animal. Very interesting. Yeah, I don't know when you would decide to. I guess it's assuming that this letter is extra because it's not, maybe it has to be that they're saying that the letter is extra. If you didn't have that hey, right? I'm sorry, the mem, you'd still, l'chayra sounds like the same pasuk.
He brings here from the Malbim in Vayikra that explains that this procedure is based upon the grammatical rules of biblical Hebrew and is not a capricious reshuffling of the verse's letters.
It has, it's just not a, yeah, okay. Fine, okay, very good. So anyway, so that's by Dama part. So by Rapap and the Spazara ketores, what happens if, the Kohen took out the whole handfuls of the ketores and then it fell on the floor, right? So we said by the Dama par, it works. As long as it spills after it was already gathered in the Kli, then it's okay, right? So what happens if it spilled, so if the ketores spilled on the floor, so you have to put it back. I don't know if you have to put it back or get new ketores, I don't know. But what happens if it spilled after the Kohen already put it into his hands? Do we look at his hands like the neck of an animal and it's passul? Or do we say no? It's a klisharis. His hands are like a klisharis. Once it's in his hands and it spills, you just pick it up off the floor.
Where's his hands taking it from?
From the bucket, from the shovel that they bring out there.
So the shovel is the kli. So his hand is another kli taking it from another kli.
No, but the whole avoda, the whole main part of the not main part, one of the parts of the avoda is that he's supposed to take it in his hands from the shovel.
So good. So why is it like a kli tzap? Why is it like his?
Meaning, once it's in his hands, do we look at his hands like that's the kli and the blood is already in his kli in the kli? It's equivalent of the blood in the kli, and then if it spills,
from a kli, of course it's from a kli.
No, the kli didn't count. That kli doesn't count. That's just a way to transport it from the lishka space of tinas, right? I think that's.
It could be because there's another kli after his hands because he puts it back into the kaf. So since there's a two-part here, do we look at it like the kli shares because he took it from the source? Or do we look at it like the neck because it's going into a kli still?
Rav Tzvi, you're saying when he took it from base of tinas and put it in the barrel, that's not a kli. That's what you're saying?
Correct. That is a kli, but that's not part of the avodah. That was just a way for him to transport the kli.
That's the Gemara's shaila. Is it considered a kli or not?
Correct. Yes, that's mom. Yes, and now when it's in his hands, is that like a kli or not? So the Gemara says teiku. Fine. By Rav Papa. So now we know, there's something called pigul. Right. So pigul is anytime the kohen thinks that he's going to shech the behema mechutz l'zman or mechutz l'mekoymoi. So then it's pigul. What happens if the kohen, when he's doing this, thinks in his head that he's not going to do it the proper time, right? So does that have the same din as if a kohen has in his head to shecht it, right? Yeah. So
is pigul the proper place also, or just the time?
Is it what?
Changing the place and the time, or either, or just the time?
Both. Pigul is
Both.
both. Just one is ketores, one is not. I don't remember which one is which, but one
Right.
is ketores, not. Yeah.
So this is relatively easy to do. He does ketores 3 times that day. I mean, he takes the malay chafnav and thinks, I'm going to put it on the mizbeach hazav. Oh, no. This goes into Kodesh production.
Yes. Yeah. Fair enough. Yeah, he has plenty of opportunities, you're saying.
Gershon, if you're a Kohen, you better learn this over 100 times.
It's a good thing Gershon's not a kohen. I don't know if he'd be able to handle it.
I'm a bechayr. I don't know if that counts.
All right. Anyway, so again, so by Rabbi Chisha b'chfinas ketores mao mi amrina yalef malay mincha. Do we learn malay mincha? Ma hasa mahanya b'machshava hachanami mahanya b'machshava. Just like over there, machshava helps us. So to machshava helps here, oilai, or maybe not. So Amalei Rav Simi bar Ashi l'Rapapa Tashma Ha'isiv Rabbi Kiva HaKoimetz VaKtoiris VaLavayna VaGacholim. Right? Or you change the word HaKoimetz to Silas. Ktoiris VaLavayna VaGacholim Shim Naga Tvul Yoim B'Mitzasam Passul Skulan. So in those dinim, if a Tvul Yoim, which is somebody who toiveled that day and has to wait for the night, so if he touched even part of the flour or the frankincense or the coals, it's as if he touched the whole thing. With the passul tful yoim, passul nami lina. If you're already passeling tful yoim, you're also going to passul lina, with thinking that the two go together. And with the lina passul, and if lina's passul nami machshava. So then having improper thoughts that you're going to do it not in its proper time is going to make it passul too. Right? So that's what the Gemara's thinking, and it should be a problem. Right? So then the Gemara says, by Rav Papa, and that there's another Rav Papa question. Yeah? On Talmud Beis. Yeah, Naftali, you like this stuff?
Is this Kasal Kedaitach the answer?
What?
Is that Kasal Kedaitach the answer of the Gemara? He's proving it from this price.
It sounds like it's it sounds.
Yeah.
I mean,
Are we?
The price of
Depends, are we doing
finishes before
Taisus?
Kasal Kedaitach.
for you, we're going to do Taisus, Naftali.
Oh,
After the daf.
okay, fine.
That's the Taisus
Okay.
for you. Yeah.
Okay.
So what are you saying? What are you
It's just
saying,
it's an interesting way to answer. Kasal
It's very
Kedaitach is usually a Havamina. Here it's must come.
Yeah. Yes, it's very interesting. Right? I mean the way you have to teach Kasaka Daitach. That it means
Yeah,
different.
he's saying that Rabbi Kiva
Normally
from
Kasaka
Rabbi Kiva
Daitach.
we see. Yeah.
Correct. Yeah, that's very good. So Boira Papa, another question. Chishev b'chatias gacholim mahu. If he thinks about what about the gacholim? Until now we're talking about the ketores. If the kohen thinks about something different, what about the gacholim? Machshirei mitzvah kemitzvah damay alai. Is a machshirei mitzvah considered like the mitzvah or not? Meaning, if you say, see, the Gemara is going according to the teretz that it just gave, that there is pigul on it, right? So what happens if machshirei mitzvah is the same? Is machshirei mitzvah the same as mitzvah? Meaning,
What's the machshirei mitzvah?
the coals. The main thing is the ketores, not the coals.
The cold, you can't do the ketores without the coals.
That's why it's Machshirei Mitzvah.
No, it's one and the same. Ketores is
Can't make
worthless without coals.
I just froze.
Is the knife of a mile. The knife of a mile is Machshirei Mitzvah. You can't do it without the knife, but that's what Machshirei Mitzvah is.
But if you had a stone that was like a knife, you could do it.
It's still there's no difference a stone or a knife, whatever it is. It's not the meal itself.
We had this
I
shtickle before. The Gemara asked earlier about putting the ketores in the left hand and the coals in the right hand. Because the acre is the ketores, not the coals.
Yeah. I don't know. It's yes. The ketores is nothing without the coals, but lamaisa it's only a hecha timtza to get the coals to. Bringing the coals in is certainly a machshirei mitzvah. Maybe the actual putting the ketores on the coals is fine, but getting the coals into the kodesh hakadoshim is a machshirei mitzvah. The coals in the shovel is just a way to get to the mitzvah, right?
I think Zevi holds like the Ran in Kedushin. So stark. The machshirei mitzvah kemitzvah dami, and mamash, it's the same thing.
Okay, maybe that's okay. Maybe.
When we get to Kedushin, you'll bring up the.
Anyway, so teku. So the Gemara says teku. Yeah, fine. Bami name Rav Sheshes. Hayleches b'smol mahu. Right. What happens if he carries the what do you call it? This is not ketores. This is really talking about now we're back to dam. Let's say, right, so everything has to be done on the right hand. So you're supposed to carry the bucket of blood or cup of blood, whatever it is, from the place, the makam shchita, in the north part of Mizbeach to the Mizbeach. Well, let's say he carries it in his left hand. Right? So Amar Rav Sheshes to Nisua, Rav Sheshes said we learned it. Not all is a machta b'yimina, it's a kach b'smoilei. He takes the machta in his right hand and the thing of ketores, the cup of ketores in his left hand. So you see that it's got to be kosher with the left hand. Even though 2 days ago's daf we said that there's a reason why the ketores goes in the left hand, right? But the bottom line is if it was ma'akiv that it needs to be in the right hand, then we wouldn't do it, right? So you see that.
But isn't that only when
there's
something something else in the right hand?
No, but it's still you'd have to. The reason why we said that you take the ketores in the left hand is because the thing in the right hand is heavier. We had reasons for that, right? But lamaisa, if the ketores had to have been brought in the right hand, then we would. If it's harder on the kohen, although there's nothing we could do. He still has to put the coals in the left hand. That we put the coals in the right hand and the ketores in the left hand. It's got to be that the avoda in the left hand is not ma'akiv and it should be okay. Right, so then the Gemara says, why don't you say pshat me'odatram? We learned in the Mishnah, right? Haregel sheyamin b'smal ubeis oira lachutz, right? If he's carrying the what do you call it? We had way back at the beginning of Yoma. They have to carry all the limbs onto the mizbeach, right? It says that if he took the regel of the right, left, the back right foot of the animal with his left hand, right, and the base oira lechutz, and the skin facing the outside. So you're allowed to do that. It says you're a regel shrimin b'smaller base oira lechutz, that you're allowed to carry it up like that. So you see that you're allowed to carry things. You're allowed to do avodas with the left. So Gemara says, "Imei hasam." No, we can't. He didn't learn out from there because imei hasam hava minahani midli halacha delay ma'akva kapara. There, it's talking about a halacha, the carrying it to the mizbeach. That's not ma'akva kapara. We know that burning the limbs and the meats on the mizbeach is not ma'akva. Aval halacha the ma'akva kapara loy. But if it's something that's ma'akva, like carrying the blood, that's ma'akiv. You need to sprinkle the blood on the mizbeach. So that maybe you would think you're not. So Kamash Malon that teaches us that he's telling us that left hand is still okay. Yeah. So they're going to ask on Talmud Aleph now. Meisvei zar va'aynein shikaru ba'almum. If you have a zar, a Yisrael, and aynein kohen who just lost a relative, if he's drunk or he has a ba'almum, bekabala over lechas ubezrika psula. If he's makabel the blood or he carries the blood and he throws it, it's passul. V'chein yoishev. And the same thing if somebody sits down when he's makabel the blood, v'chein small. Passul says passul. We just said the small is going to be kosher. And now we have a beferish brisa that says that it's the small is passul. So when it says tiyufta, yeah, enochanami, it's a tiyufta. Right? Yeah. Yeah, it's okay. We have to continue, but I can't stop here. So the one says, Rav Sheshes who dies for Rav Sheshes himself. Rav Sheshes is the one that gave the teretz before, right? Or he was the one that asked the kasha. Rav Sheshes gave the teretz, right? So Rav Sheshes who dies for Rav Sheshes is the one that asked he's the one that really. It's not like Rav Sheshes didn't know this brisa. He knew this brisa. Dama le Rav Sheshes la'amoyre de Rav Chista. So, because Rav Sheshes once told the person that speaks for Rav Chista, meaning like the maturgan, right? We had that there was always somebody that helped the Amoyre give the shir. Rav Chista, halacha bizar mahu, carrying the meats, the limbs to the mizbeach. What's the din? Amrlei, he said, Ksheru mikra misayeni, and it's kosher, and a pasuk backs me up, it helps me out. Because this is Yishchatu a Pesach, Yizruku Kahanim Yodam Alavim Mashita. Right, and they shechted the Korban Pesach, and then the Kahanim threw it onto the Mizbeach, and the Leviim were cutting up the animals. Right? So from the pasuk it's mashma that the Leviim were involved in getting the blood to the mizbeach. When Moshe Rav Sheshes and Rav Sheshes asked Zar v'Ayin Shikru Bal Mum beKabbalah v'Ilacha v'Zrika passul v'Chein Yoshe v'Chein Small passul. Right. So you see, Rav Sheshes asked from this brisa to try and disprove that a Levi cannot bring the blood to the mizbeach. So how come Rav Sheshes all of a sudden didn't know this when he gave them? Again, Rav Sheshes gave an answer here that the carrying in the left is going to be okay. Then we asked the kasha that shows specifically straight out that left is not okay. And then we said, well, how can Rav Sheshes be the one to say it's okay if he himself quoted this brisa once? Right? So the Gemara answers, Basad the Shama Hadar Oisva. After he learned it, that's when he asked the kasha. Right? When he asked the kasha to Rav Chisda was after he already learned this, meaning the Gemara's kasha on the previous Amud was before Rav Sheshes learned this price. Once he learned this prices, then he used it to ask a different kasha. So, but the thing is, Rav Chisda Kroka Amar. Right? But Rav Chisda said a pasuk. It's not like he just said a brisa. He said a pasuk that seems to say that somebody who's a lefty won't work, or that's part of it. So the Gemara says the avoda ma'isa itztava. No, what they did is that they made a ma'isa of an itztava. Itztava we learned is like a bench. They just stood there, right? Meaning when the kohanim, when makabel the blood from the what do you call the guys who were not kohanim, right? Meaning they didn't do anything. Basically, the kohanim needed help from Leviim. So what they did is the Levi stood there like a goylem, and they just handed it to him. So it was no different than as if the kohen put it down on something. The Levi didn't make a move towards the mizbeach. So he didn't really, the Levi or the Zar, whatever you want to call it, never participated in this whole avoda. He was just standing in one place. He was just standing in one place. He really didn't have part of the Maisa. So therefore, it would have been okay if you just go with the pasuk. But then once the brisa says that a lefty can't carry it, so then he had his kasha. Okay. That's so we could stop here. A good vach and a good yor. Yeah.
Well, thank you.
All right. A nice short daf for Motzei Shabbos.
Yeah, what was the Havam in Rav Sheshes?
What was the what?
What was the Havam in here of Rav Sheshes? They asked Rav Sheshes, "Veilocha b'smoil mahu," and he answered from an avoda that needs both hands. How do you answer from an avoda that needs both hands that an avoda that needs one hand, the smoil is kosher?
What was his havamina?
Yeah.
I don't know.
And then they even asked on him from another avoda which needs two hands, the regel and the roish.
What are you asking now? What are you saying?
The shaila to Rav Sheshes was Eilacha b'smoil by dam, right? To get to Zrika.
Right.
And his answer was Tanisua noto samachta b'mine v'sakaf b'smoiloi. What's the answer?
What's the problem?
That's an avoda that needs two hands. He has two separate kalim. But one of the kalim is going to be in his left hand. So how can you prove from there that avoda in the left hand is kosher?
I mean, because what is that? He's not talking about the left. He's just talking about a zar.
No, the original shaila was Eilacha b'smoil, right?
Right.
What's the shaila? Eilacha of dam to Zrika. Can I do it in the smoil? Is it possible if I do it in the smoil?
Right.
Right? And the answer is Tanisua. We learned it in a Mishnah. On Yom Kippur, the Kohen Gadol can take the machta in his right and the kaf in his left hand. So you see, avoda in the left is kosher. Meikatesi. You can't bring a raya from an avoda that needs two hands to an avoda which only needs one hand.
We're talking about to carry the dam. You mean
But
the
what's
way
his
back
raya?
on He's saying we're bringing a raya.
Yeah. Remember
No,
how
because he
it
takes
was?
it out of his hands and he puts it back into a shovel. What? He puts it in his hands and then he puts it into a shovel. He takes it from a
Right,
shovel.
and that shovel he
puts it
takes
into
in his left hand.
Then he puts it back. Then he puts it back into a shovel.
Right.
And then his left hand. Yes.
So what's the raya? So now I know
What's the
that avoda in the left hand is good.
Correct.
But it's an avoda that needs two hands.
Problem. Doesn't need two hands. Why does it need two hands?
Because to get from the mizbeach to the kodesh kadashim, he needs the machta and the kaf. Correct.
Right.
So the kaf is going to be in his left hand.
That's what David was asking. Then how can you bring a raya? There was two hands.
Oh, I didn't hear that.
I think that's what he was asking.
I don't know.
But the answer, the way I understand it, is that it's still you wouldn't be able to do it if he taka needed to carry the ketores in the right hand. Then you would have to say, "Who cares? Who cares that it's harder
what should we
with
say?
the coals in the left hand?"
Oh, I hear. Yeah. That's what I thought.
What I think.
Well,
Yeah.
I just blanked out for a whole 2 minutes, I guess. I didn't hear any of that.
Yeah. Okay, listen, it's all
Okay,
good.
that was all in my head. Maybe I did hear it.
That's why I
don't
was
know.
wondering. That's why I was wondering what you were asking. So
Yeah. Okay, yeah. That's Shikaya.
Can I ask you a quick mezuzah, Shiloh?
Sure.
Okay, so mezuzah goes on the side of the door that actually opens, and it leans in towards the house, correct?
Yes. What do you mean the door that it opens? Well, what did that mean?
The part where the doorknob is.
It depends which way you use. Depends which way you use. Depends which way. Yes, that's true, but depending on a lot of other variables. That's not the first qualification.